Tonight, another TTC attack that has left the Muslim community worried for their safety. Toronto police is investigating an alleged hate-motivated attack on a hijabi woman. The assailant asked the woman what she would do if she was struck in the head before pulling a knife from his backpack. And a vehicle plows into pedestrians in Quebec, killing 2 and injuring 9 others. The accused faces charges of a hit-and-run causing death. We look at Saudi Arabia's controversial Ramadan rules and bank collapse in the US later in the show. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I'm Catherine Bullock. Police in Toronto are investigating an alleged hate-motivated crime that occurred last week on a Toronto subway. In a statement published by the National Council of Canadian Muslims, also known as the NCCM, on March 9th around 5 p.m, a woman wearing a hijab was allegedly threatened by a man with a knife. The incident occurred on a train between Vaughan Metropolitan Centre and Finch West. According to the statement issued by NCCM, the assailant asked the woman hypothetical questions about Islam and what she would do if someone hit her head. He then pulled a large knife from his backpack. Toronto police say they are investigating the incident and are also reviewing the TTC camera footage. Toronto's deputy mayor has called the incident, quote, unacceptable. She says she is in touch with Toronto police about it. 2 people have died and 9 are injured after a pickup truck ploughed yesterday into pedestrians in a small Canadian town northeast of Quebec City. The victims were walking along a boulevard in Amqui, Quebec, a town of about 6,100 people. A witness told a media source that the pedestrians were spaced out over several hundred meters. Children were taken to a nearby hospital, while 5 of the victims were taken to 3 other hospitals. The incident occurred in the middle of the afternoon. The 38-year-old driver turned himself into the police. He faces a charge of hit and run causing death, police said. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tweeted his sympathy for the dead and injured and expressed his appreciation for the work of the first responders, as did Quebec Premier Francois Legault. Police gave no information on why the driver ran down the pedestrians. The Jesuits of Canada said yesterday they feel shame over 27 priests who an investigation has revealed are credibly accused of sexual abuse of minors. The list of names was published in a letter on the Jesuit Order's website. The abuse dates back more than 50 years. Father Eric Oland, the head of the Jesuits of Canada, which is a Catholic organization, said 3 of the surviving priests have been removed from active ministry and are restricted to Toronto under the watchful eyes of the Jesuits. Oland admitted the church did not move fast enough to reveal the names, but after going through a period of, quote, outright denial and moral incompetence, has finally admitted the guilt of the priests. The names were uncovered through an investigation by the Jesuits of Canada and an independent investigator that began 3 years ago. There are 208 priests in the Jesuits of Canada. Saudi Arabia's announcement of a set of rules and restrictions for the holy month of Ramadan in the kingdom this year has angered the Muslim community. Issued and circulated earlier this month by the Minister of Islamic Affairs, the document contains 10 rules to which the kingdom must abide. The rules include reduction in the volume of mosque loudspeakers, no iftar meals inside mosques, and the banning of filming or broadcasting prayers. According to the rules, cameras are not to be used to photograph imams. The imam will be responsible for authorizing the seclusion in the mosque known as itikaf by knowing the data of the worshipper. In addition to other controversial rules, children are also barred from attending the prayers in the mosques. An American academic and author researching Islamophobia in the US, Khaled Ali Badoun, has pointed to the role of the US in the increasing globalization of anti-Islam protests in Asia and Europe, while speaking to a media source. Badoun says the US has exported Islamophobia to Asia, Africa, Europe, and the Middle East and beyond in a destructive way. He says the US administration laid out a new framework for the Muslim identity with the rhetoric on war on terror after the September 11th attacks. He specifies that the US engineered a new legal and policing architecture for the so-called Muslim terrorists that governments across the world adopted, pointing out that the war on terror campaign of the US is effective in a wide area from Asia to Europe. Beidoun says, for example, before 9/11, Uyghurs living in China were not defined as terrorists, extremists, or those affiliated with transnational terrorist networks. President Joe Biden sought to reassure people in the US over the country's banking system yesterday, as more US banks came under stress and European stocks tumbled on contagion worries. SVB, a key lender to startups across the United States since the 1980s, collapsed after a sudden run on deposits, prompting regulators to seize control Friday. On Sunday night, US federal authorities stepped in to protect all depositors at SVB, and regulators took over a troubled second lead lender. In a brief televised address, Biden said Americans can have confidence in their banking system and that their deposits are safe. But there were immediate signs of pressure at additional US lenders. In Britain, banking giant HSBC bought SVB's UK division for just £1 or $1.2 in a rescue deal overseen by the Bank of England and the government. European stock markets fell deeper into the red on Monday, and most Asian indices finished lower, with banks taking a hit. A group of European diplomats visited Palestine's Sheikh Jarrah and Silwa neighborhoods last week and walked on streets of the old city to show support to the Palestinian families under the threat of forced eviction by Israeli forces. Diplomats from 15 European nations, including the representative ambassador of the European Union in Palestine, met Palestinian families in occupied East Jerusalem. They reiterated support to the people of Palestine and strong opposition to Israel's settlement policy, which is illegal under international law. Israel occupied East Jerusalem during the 1967 Arab-Israeli War. It annexed the entire city in 1980 in a move never recognized by the international community. International law regards both the West Bank and East Jerusalem as occupied territories and considers all Jewish settlement building activity there illegal. A stage performance titled Rubble is playing in the Theatre Passe Muraille in Toronto until March 18. The 90-minute-long show captures 2,000-year-old Palestinian history using the celebrated poetry of Mahmoud Darwish and Lina Khalaf Tufaha. The play opens with a mother receiving a call to leave her home in 58 seconds before it explodes. The mother struggles to leave her home, giving the audience a recap of the history of Palestinian occupation and violation of human rights. As the city is bombed and atrocities carried out, the story explores the emotions of love, loss, and grief, and how these emotions intersect. Suvendrini Lina is the playwright, and the show is directed by Beatrice Pisano from Aluna Theatre. And that's it for today's news. Thanks for watching. If you like what we do, please share, like, and subscribe. Stay safe, and God bless.